Hi, my name's Kevin. I am an MDiv student in the weekend program set to graduate from Lancaster Theological Seminary in 2022, and I've been trying to put together some videos to help incoming students. In this video, I'm going to be talking about an application called Scrivener. A friend from our cohort, Joe, pointed this out to me, and unfortunately I didn't start using it until the third term, but it proved very helpful to the whole paper writing process. So I'm going to show you a little bit about Scrivener today. Some things you should know about it. I've already installed it here, but it is not a free application. So it does cost money. It's also cross-platform. So if you have a tablet, you might want to use the tablet version in addition to the desktop version. But anyway, this is Scrivener. This is how it shows up in Apple's App Store. And now I'm going to show you the application itself. So when you open up a brand new project, you have a choice of different types of documents to create. Typically, now that I've created my first one, I'll use that as a template and duplicate it and go from that. But the very first time you use Scrivener, these are the choices you're given. Since LTS uses Chicago style, that is a good one to choose, and that's what I have open right here. This is what you get when you choose a brand new Chicago style essay. So if you look around, just to familiarize you with the interface a little bit, if you look around over here, you can see there's kind of this master drop down for essay. There's title page, an area for main content, and right now they just have the body there. You've got your endnotes and works cited, which I'll show you an example of how I use this later on. Then down below you've got a section for notes and a section for ideas. The interface is pretty straightforward. For instance, if you want to create a new note, you just go to add and new text and thoughts on leadership from class, for instance. And you could jot some notes down in here, one, etc. And you can keep adding notes. You can also do the same with ideas. The way that I use Scrivener is notes are things from, notes from class and other sources that are not books. I'll generally put in the notes section, and under ideas, that is where I put direct quotes from books, and I'll show you how I do that in a moment. So you've got your title page, and that hovers up here. Now, if you were working in a word processor or word processing document, you'd have your title page, and then you'd have to scroll down to get to your introduction and scroll down and so forth. One of the things I like about Scrivener is the way that it divides up the content. So I can just be looking at one part of my work at a time. So let's say, generally you're going to have an introduction. Generally you're going to have a conclusion in any given paper that you put together. So you've got these three separate parts of your paper that you're putting together. So I have an idea about my introduction, and I'm going to write that in there right now, and then I might have an idea about the conclusion, or something might come into my mind. I can jump to the conclusion immediately and start writing that in that area there, and you don't have to scroll through your paper continuously in order to do that. A lot of times I have notes from the books that I read. So for instance, in the Kindle app, I've got this right here. This is one of the books that I've been looking at recently, and at any time I can go to Show Notebook, and it will show me the highlights that I have made in that book. When you're finished reading the book, or whenever you want to export your notes, you can go to this export button right here, add any notes you want to. You can see the notes appear down here, and you can do a save as, and it'll save that to an HTML file that you can then open in your browser, and that HTML file looks like this. So these are all the highlights I have from that leadership book. Say that I want to use those in my Scrivener document. This is generally how I will do it. I'll take a highlight and a quote. So this is from location 332. It's this Einstein quote. I jump over in my Scrivener document. I create a new idea. Again, ideas is where I like to keep quotes that I take from books. And there, I've got this one from Einstein right here. Another one here that I might want to use. Copy, go over here. I don't think there's a keyboard shortcut, unfortunately, for adding ideas. I wish there was one. Hope they come up with one at some point. Now, if you were to want to have some sort of name for these different quotes, some sort of keyword, you could put that at the beginning. And then you'll see over here under ideas, that might make it easier for you to find something. Something else that I do generally, instead of just copying and pasting from this HTML file, is I will highlight all of the notes. I will paste them into a text document. And you can see it's kind of messy over here. Generally, I don't want all of these things to say highlight yellow. What I really want from this is the name of the author, because I'm probably going to have different sources for whatever paper I'm writing. So I want to have the name of the author and the actual location. So I will generally do a find and replace for all of this. So highlight through location space, and I will replace it with the author's name. Unfortunately, this is a text editor and not a word processor. I have to put these little slashes in here. But if I do a replace all, you can see it changes my word processing document. So my text editor document over here. So instead of having that stuff about the highlights, I have really what I'm looking for in terms of the exact page number or location, and then the author and page number. So when I add those to my Scrivener document, it's a little bit better organized, or a little bit cleaner. One other nice thing about Scrivener is it lets you look at all of your, for instance, your note cards or your quotes. It lets you look at all of those at once. So generally when I'm writing a paper, I'm taking these quotes from all over the place, and I like to kind of lay out the quotes in the order in which I'll be using them in the paper. So in this view, it lets you reorder and kind of see a lot of your quotes at once. So this is a view of a project in the very early stages. Let me switch over to one of my papers from this past year. You can see, so this was my Old Testament final project. My first page header, it's always going to be the same. I put it in there once and then it's done. I don't have to worry about it again. I've got my introduction here. These are sort of the categories, the way that I broke down my paper writing. And so these are all the sections of my report. As I worked, I added my citations into this works cited section, and so that would be added automatically when I got to the compiling this document, that it would be automatically added to the end. I have a note for the actual assignment from the class, my first impressions of the reading that I did, and some other things in my notes section, all the general notes I took from the Collins book. And then down below you can see I have all these ideas. These are all the quotes from which I worked in the paper. So I reordered these and wound up using them sort of in this sequence when I wrote the report. I even used the color, eventually I wound up using this color coding feature as well. So if you look up here in the beginning, you can see I colored the introduction blue by changing the icon to, the blue notes over here. So then as I went through, I and this was a bigger paper. Your shorter papers, this is probably a little bit more than you need to go into. But for instance, this quote, as I was looking through my quotes and where to use them, I wound up coloring this blue because I thought it would work well in the introduction section. So you can go and use the different icons in that way when putting together a report. Something I neglected to mention about the interface is they do footnotes a little bit differently. Instead of having to scroll down to the bottom to see them, they put them over here at the side as you write, and that's a handy thing. So just go to Insert and Footnote, and that'll pop up your little footnote window here, so you can see it very close to where you're doing the footnoting. So when you're finally done putting together your entire document and you're ready to turn it into some other form, you go up here to publish it or compile it. You can turn it into a Word document, a PDF, and generally I'll turn it into a Word doc so that I can look at it in that format and do some editing there before it's all finalized. But you choose which portions of your sections over here you want to include, and you click compile, and then you get your final document, and you can work with it from there. I hope this has proven helpful. Give Scrivener a try. I'm very glad I did. There are tutorials available on how to use it in general. This is just how I used it for my seminary classes, but it's a very useful tool, and I hope you get some value out of this video. Thank you.